I find the early days of the internet really interesting, especially in the kind of world of e-commerce. Lots of different mad things happen that you really wouldn't expect. Like in the original .com boom, billions of pounds were pumped into online shopping, and everyone thought they were kind of riding the crest of this wave. They were going to be the big online retailer. These early waters of the internet were hard for companies to navigate. They kind of understood the internet and they were trying to stake their claim in there. Well, this is a story about a small art group that took on etoys.com, which was the leading online retailer at the time, eventually leading to them going bankrupt and losing billions in stock price. So what was the toy war and how did it start? Well, first off, we had a small art group, and this was a group of cyber activists, as they were known, cyber hippies, and they were known as eToy Corporation. They basically held raves, they did techno music events, and were based in several countries across Europe. They were part of the early net art movement and often described themselves as surreal businessmen who did not separate art and commerce. They registered and owned the domain etoy.com, which they registered in 1995, and did several actions, including changing search results in early search engines to perform digital hijacking, but that's another story for another video. In this story, I'm going to be focusing on the toy war in particular. So what started the toy war? etoy.com were happily chugging along until in 1997, Ideas Lab, a company that came up with many kind of online ideas, they bought the domain etoys.com and started setting up an operation to be the biggest retailer of all time. etoys.com ran their operation and started to realise they were losing a lot of traffic, and they were like, why are we losing traffic? And it was people mistyping or typing etoy.com, and it estimated that they actually lost over 20,000 to 30,000 hits a day, and back then that was a kind of huge amount of users. So what did eToys decide to do? Well, they decided to buy etoy.com and offered upwards of $500,000 in cash and stock options for the domain. eToy Corporation did not accept the offer.
Our response to the first offer they made was a smiley face, an ASCII smiley face, which basically said, fuck off, we don't accept such a deal. If you want to do business with us, you have to be much more serious.
So, on November the 2nd, 1999, eToys obtained a court injunction preventing etoy.com from operating a website at www.etoy.com. The art group branded themselves as kind of a corporation, so they had agents that would come in suits, they had shares in the company that were floated on the exchange, and different art companies would be invested with them, different museums, guys like that, and also members of the eToy Corporation would be invested in themselves. Now, these stock certificates were also put on etoy.com, and they had many subdomains as well that came out at the time. This was the actual last image that was on etoy.com before the judge ordered it to be removed.
With the help of an American court, they cut off our website first, and later even the email system of the eToy Corporation.
When this court injunction happened, it was all over the news. There were many people that were very annoyed on the internet. This domain being seized by people who'd actually come after the domain was founded. It's absolutely crazy. So a lot of people came and joined in with the toy war. Now, the aim of the toy war was to bankrupt etoys.com.
What occurred was a decision to kind of strike at eToys at the height of Christmas, like 12 days of Christmas action, you might say, where we would start having multi-mirrors around the globe doing a virtual sit-in on their site. We had some people from hell.com doing psychological operations on the trading boards, telling people how bad this was going. RT Mark was sending out via their massive email list propaganda about destroying etoys.com. The game was to bring their $84 share value down to zero in 12 days.
And the first method was to do cyber sit-ins. This is an early form of denial of service attack, basically getting as many people to log in as possible and refresh the site. they did this attack for several short spans of time, so it was 6 15-minute periods, because they didn't want to bring the site down, they just wanted to cripple it. Now, there were several tools and script tools that were circling around the internet back then, and they combined them to kind of keep eToy's server busy just doing routine tasks. Now, the cleverest script was probably toykiller.html. It was a non-linear script that filled out cookie-based shopping carts to the brim without actually making a purchase.
One interesting weapon was developed by an American software engineer. It was very anonymous. It allowed people to create virtual shoppers.
What the script did in the floodnet manner of reloading was it reloaded a process of shopping. So it went through the entire arc of buying randomly, different objects, going all the way to the cash register, about to finish filling out the cash register form, and then canceling out of it and restarting again. Now, by the third or fourth day of the action, there was news reports that etoys.com was the most difficult site to order anything on.
Every time a new item was added to the list, it had to kind of be refigured and redrawn, and this process would take longer and longer as all the carts started to get filled up. They'd also have many mirrors as well, generating hundreds and thousands of requests each day. On the second day, they got a lot more complex scripts that they gave out, which actually kicked eToys off its own network, meaning that it was banned from a lot of the shopping cart networks. Other sites and early net art groups like Hell.com started joining in the toy war. They were doing psychological operations, planting propaganda in message boards across the internet. This led to a big panic at eToys. They thought, we're going to have to do a deal with this eToy corporation. So they ended up doing a deal and reimbursing them with £40,000 in legal fees, returning the domain, and in return, eToy Corporation would drop its countersuit against the company, and also they kind of rejected the suggestion to move graphical images because children might be more likely to find them.
After exactly 81 days, Toy War was over. The whole thing became a disaster for their company. The share price crashed, so they lost more than $4 billion within 3 months. In March 2001, eToys Incorporated filed for bankruptcy.
eToys.com, the toy retailer, had actually managed to gain a huge customer base of around 2 million, but they had an absolutely awful Christmas performance. And it wasn't just the hacktavists and the net artists that ended up destroying the company. As with many of these internet companies, they ended up kind of destroying themselves, and this was due to not keeping up with orders, overinvestment into huge warehouses that they never actually needed, and this led to the company's shares dropping from $84 a share to 9 cents in 2 weeks. That is absolutely crazy. It had accumulated £247 million in debt, and bankruptcy followed in 2001. This was a huge fall from grace, and eventually eToys.com got bought by Toys R Us, and we all know how well they're doing. And eToy Corporation is still around. They're still doing art stuff, and I may be covering them in future videos. So I really hope you've enjoyed this story and stuff about the early internet net art movement. So please subscribe to my channel, share my content, and thanks so much for watching. Ciao.